Greetings once again, YouTube. This is Hell's Unicorn, and this will be the second part of my opposition research series. And before I get into the topic of this episode of opposition research, I would just like to give a quick shout out to a current website that is actually under development right now. It cannot be visited yet because it's still under construction, but I will give a link to the page on Ron Paul Forums where this particular site is currently underway, and the name of the thread is Exposing the Hacks. And this particular name will also be attributed to the website once it's up. There are already various bits and pieces of information about all of the people that are currently in the campaign in order to maintain the status quo in government, so I think it only fair that we have our own news outlet in order to counter this. Now, on to the subject of tonight's particular subject, the particular person of this episode. Dick Morris is rightly viewed as a troll and a complete piece of garbage by everybody on the left. Oftentimes for the right reasons too, although only reasons that are right about half the time. And as such, I would like to state for the matter that using left-wing sources in order to expose hacks is just as valid as using right-wing sources to expose other hacks. The one little thing that people don't quite yet seem to get about journalism and about politics is that when people are saying negative stuff about each other, a lot of the time it tends to be true. And when people are praising each other, it's usually not true, or it's true for reasons other than what are being suggested. And in those few isolated cases where it is untrue, there is always some sort of partial or half-truth involved that can be grabbed onto, and a clearer picture can be ascertained with further research. But a good rule of thumb to follow is that whenever somebody says something negative about their opposition, it's always true. And as such, you can turn the cannons of the left wing against themselves or after the right wing, since after all they are wings off of the same corrupt bird, which is pretending to be the bird of liberty. So, I have a link to a group of articles about the toe-sucking, whoremongering pervert, Dick Morris, and I'm just going to read a few excerpts just to whet your appetite so that you can actually go over there and you can actually get a feel for exactly what this guy is all about. A lot of people probably know some of this stuff, but I don't think everybody knows the full extent of it, because when it comes to skeletons in the closet, I mean, this guy doesn't just have a graveyard in his closet, he's got an entire, military graveyard from a major conflict in his closet. I mean, we're talking tens of thousands of dead people and very restless corpses at that. Okay, start off with the obvious. On August 29, 1996, Morris resigned from the Clinton campaign after reports surfaced that he had been involved with a prostitute. A tabloid newspaper had obtained and published a set of photographs of Morris and the woman on a Washington, D.C. hotel balcony. The Daily Telegraph reported that in order to impress the woman, Sherry Rowlands, Morris invited her to listen in on conversations with the president. The Telegraph also alleged that Morris had a preference for toe-sucking and dominance, and that he regarded Rowlands with a version of Popeye the Sailor Man performed in his underpants. Morris resigned on the same day that Clinton spoke and accepted the nomination of the Democratic National Convention. In his resignation statement, he said that while I served, I sought to avoid the limelight because I did not want to become the message. Now I resign so I will not become the issue. In his response, President Clinton praised Morris as a friend and thanked him for his years of service. Moving on. Morris was featured on 2 consecutive covers of Time magazine, as was Hitler. But that's an aside. Moving on. In September 2nd, 1996 issue, which was released before the prostitute story broke, featuring Morris as the man who has Clinton's ear. And apparently there were ears on Clinton outside of these two also at his request, or at his behest, so to speak. The following week, the cover featured Morris and his wife, that's Eileen McGann, and the headline read, "The Morris Mess After the Fall." And, failure to pay taxes. Morris has famously been labeled year after year as one of the biggest tax delinquents in his home state of Connecticut, owing an estimated $280,000 in unpaid taxes. People bitch about Tim Geithner. Dick Morris is in the same category. Continuing on. Even though I posted some of his articles on this blog during the Obama-Clinton fight, I was by no means on the Dick side. I was for Obama. And had Clinton beaten Obama, fairly or unfairly, I would never have jumped into the Republican bed, as some unprincipled diehard Hillaryists are still pontificating to this date. Dick Morris is filth, Fox News filth, to be more precise. And then he goes on. There is a video of Dick Morris talking about how an attack on Iran would be good for the political prospects of whoever's in power. Very cynical, but oddly enough probably also fairly true. And then newshounds.us reports, for Dick Morris, war is simply good electoral strategy. During a double segment on last night's, this is July 25th of 08, Hannity and Colmes, Fox News contributor Morris gleefully predicted to a horrified Alan Colmes that Israel would attack Iran within a time frame based on the U.S. elections. Morris, who never put his own tushy on the line with military service, argued that an attack would be a good thing not just because of the situation with Iran, but because it would help Senator John McCain get elected. Now, for all of you that have been keeping up with recent day politics, evidently it seems more likely that if McCain were president right now, he'd be more interested in starting a war with Russia in order to give Putin the Gaddafi treatment than he is going after Iran. I guess we can attribute that to a recent onslaught of senility that first struck him, I think, back in the mid-2000s. But anyway, continuing on. Last year, the D.C. Madam Deborah Jean Palfrey, who for more than a decade ran an escort service that catered to upscale clients in the nation's capital, sending college-educated women to men's homes or hotel rooms, named Dick Morris as one of her clients. For about $300, Jean Palfrey promised 90 minutes of what she has described as a discreet, legal, high-end erotic fantasy service, a sophisticated name for prostitution. Makes one wonder, what's wrong with Eileen McGann, Dick Morris's wife? Most women cannot stomach such crap. They will divorce pronto. So the only other possible reason is that she is into her husband's high-end erotic pervertry, a willing participant. Most will say what a man and a woman do in their bedroom is nobody else's business. Argument is moot if one is involved in spreading lies and falsehoods. So until Dick Morris stops poking his filthy nose up Fox's stinky poopy ass, this is the opinions of the blogger here, we will continue throwing stink bombs at him. And it goes on and on and on. I mean, this guy is about as unsavory as they come, and frankly, this website alone presents you with enough information to pretty much conclude that Dick Morris is not worth listening to, and frankly, by consequence, Bill O'Reilly, Sean Hannity, and anybody else that has Dick Morris as a regular guest on and treats him with any level of credence shouldn't be paid attention to either. I look forward to comments, and I hope that all of you will be encouraged to dig deeper on this. I hope for this opposition research thing to become a trend, and I have very high hopes that the Exposing the Hacks website will become a very big success and will start to challenge some of these people, because this is getting ridiculous. So until next time, with prudence to myself and benevolence to all of you, good evening.